Hello, fellow diamond painting addicts, and welcome back to Diamond Painting Anonymous. I'm Daphne, and I'm here today for this week's WIP and Chat. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. WIP, W-I-P, stands for Work in Progress, and this is mine. You are welcome and encouraged to go grab whatever you're working on and work alongside while I chat, or alternatively, you can treat this as a podcast and just listen while I chat. I am trying to finish up my Mika Jelena kit. This is Jules and Vern from Diamond Art Club. And I'm down to my last couple of sections here. I didn't section this off with release papers because I wanted to be able to see it because I was adding in ABs and things. So once I finish it and I show that to you guys, you'll be able to see. But this was for an event in February, which I did not make the finish of. So I'm trying to get this finished up so that I can jump into my next thing, which I will be talking about in just a minute. So I've got everything ready. Got my tray, my pens, my drills. I've got my timer, my notes. I think I'm good to go. So I'm going to readjust everything so I can zoom in where I'm going to be working, and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to start my timer, and then I will pick a drill and jump into my life update. I think I'm going to do some black here just to kind of finish up doing some of my outlining here. Then it is a little bit easier to go back in and fill in the colors. So I've been doing that this whole kit and I've really been enjoying it. I'm discovering as I do this kit and I add in the ABs that I really need to spend some more time thinking about a project before I get started, but I'll get into that. Okay, so my life update. What's been going on in my life? I think the last time that I talked with you guys, our furnace had gone out, which was not fun because it was a cold snap, although it's been in the 70s this week, so who knows what the weather is going to do. But my husband called. We managed to get somebody fairly locally to come and look at it, and it was a quick fix. He just needed to clean off some sort of sensor or something. $150 later, which wasn't terrible for, a weekend call out. Everything is back up and running, and we were fine. So it all worked out good. Should have had it serviced before we turned it on, but now we know. And my husband made friends with the serviceman, so he's already been told that he'll be getting a call before we turn our air conditioner on this summer to just check it out and make sure that everything with it is working properly before we turn it on. I mean, it's bad enough, we have electric heaters, so if our heat had gone out, and we have a basement, so things, would have remained pretty stable inside the house. It wasn't bitterly cold. But when your AC goes out in the summer, as hot as it gets here, ooh, yes, that's not good. And of course, everyone always has problems and they're super busy during the summer. So I would like to avoid that if at all possible. What else is going on? Oh, I talked to my oldest. I told her she and I need to go get passport photos taken. And she's like, man, what does Canada need now? And I'm like, nope, this isn't for Canada. This is actually for the US government because both of our passports expire this year. So I want to get those. We got to get our pictures taken and all the forms filled out and get that sent off so that we can get our passports back. So I want to get that done. So we have to go in and get pictures taken, which is no big deal. But then I suddenly realized we used to be able to go drop off our passport stuff at our local courthouse. And I think they stopped doing that last year. So now I'm not sure where we're going to have to go to get it done. So we need to get that done. And we have to let Canada know that we're getting it done because, of course, while we're waiting for our new passports, we won't have our old ones because you have to send your old ones in. We're still waiting to hear about our PR. So, yeah. Did I mention that I hate waiting? I mean, I get it. I understand why it's not instantaneous, but it just seems like it takes forever. Let's see, what else? Oh, yeah. My husband got a phone call from his mom. They own quite a bit of property out in the country where they live, and they had a small section that had been sold off to a different branch of the family. And the people who live there, it's like a cousin of my husband, I think, are moving into town, and so their house is up for sale. And it's like borders right with my husband's parents' property. And so his mom was like, "You should buy it. You should buy it. You should buy it." And I'm like, "Well, one, I don't want to live in the country, at least not right now. We do plan to retire out there, but for now, my husband would still need to work, and while he's at work or traveling for work, I don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere, especially in Canada where we're not used to driving in all of the weather and that kind of thing." So, and they were, for whatever reason, they think the house is going to go really quickly. I mean, it's just a basic house. I think it was 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, nothing fancy. It didn't have a wood stove, which I was like, we have to have a wood stove. We wouldn't have a chance to go through it because they wanted us to put an offer in and all this stuff. I'm like, we don't have, we haven't applied for a mortgage or, any pre-authorization or any of that kind of thing because we don't know until we find out about our PR what we're doing. So he called his mom and talked to her and was like, we're just not ready to put in an offer on a place yet and all that kind of stuff. She was just really hoping that we would buy it so the property would be back in the family and not go to someone else. Probably also because it borders on, her property, but I really don't want to buy someplace sight unseen. Although, depending on how our PR goes, we may not get that choice, so we'll see what happens. So yeah, it was was an interesting week. And my husband was off on Friday. They got rained out at work. That, like I said, it always messes up my brain for my weeks, days of the week. When I'm home all day, every day, sometimes we become one of those old couples that watches shows based on the day of the week. That's how I know what day it is, by what show is on. Kind of one of those boring weeks for us. Oh yeah, that was the other thing about the house. We don't know when we're going to be able to move up there. So even if we could have worked everything out, to see it, buy it sight unseen, to work out the mortgage issues and all that kind of stuff, we can't go live up there in it. So one, who would be doing the renovations and keeping an eye on it? Because we couldn't do that. And two, it would be sitting empty while we waited. And you don't want to let your house sit empty. I mean, it's literally right next to his parents' property, so perhaps his brother could have gone over and kept an eye on it for us, but still, it doesn't feel good to think that you're going to have a house that's just sitting there empty. That's a lot of money, a big investment to just sit there. And we didn't want to rent it out because you just, especially with us not being there, you never know what kind of tenants you would get. And yeah, a lot of it seemed like a big headache. Although it would have been a very nice location, to be that close to his folks without being in their house. And we did hear that hubby's dad is doing a little bit better. I think they finally managed to kind of even him out a bit on the medications that he's on. They were like, he would wander off. A lot of times he would be not allowed to get up and move around because he would wander off and they wouldn't know where he was. That seems to have settled down a bit. So they've moved him to a different room in the hospital where he is, where he has a bit more freedom. So now he's allowed to, they have like a little day room that he can go to where they can watch TV or do puzzles or play card games with other people who are there and that kind of thing. And I think the socialization has been good for him. Before, it seemed like it was just a lot of kind of sitting around in a bed with nothing to do. He couldn't concentrate enough to do like puzzles and stuff in books. And my husband had talked about getting him a TV, but we weren't even sure he'd remember how to work the remote at one point. So it was just easier to kind of wait. But he seems to be doing much better, so that was good news. Just more waiting. Did I mention I hate waiting? I really would just like to know. I wish there was some kind of like progress bar on our PR application. You know how when you're downloading a program, like you get the little progress bar so you know how far you are? Am I 10% done? Am I 50% done? Am I 90% done? We have no idea. I don't know whether we're only 10% done or we're at 80. I mean, it could be anywhere. We just have no idea. I think that's part of my frustration too, is like, I feel like we're well past the halfway point, but I don't know if that's true or if that's just my perception. So just kind of a boring week all around, which, as many of you pointed out, nothing is wrong with boring. That means nothing horrible happened, which is good. I think my taxes are close to being done. I got a couple of questions about a couple of things, which I sent off, and then hopefully those will be done and we can know what the damage is. My husband and I were just talking about how March is an expensive month for us. We have, of course, tuition months where I have to pay tuition for my son are always expensive. But in March, we do not escrow the property insurance on our house. We pay that ourselves, and it's due in March. And it never does anything but get more expensive to insure our house, which, I understand that's good on the one hand. That means that our house, which is our biggest investment, is worth more, which is always good. But man, that ever increasing premium, especially when we've never had a claim. I mean, I don't know how people who have claims can afford insurance. And actually, we were talking about that very thing last time when we refinanced our mortgage a couple years ago. The guy at the bank was telling us that because we live near, well, we don't, but there's a river near our town that in the past flooded all the time. And the city eventually built levees with doors that they can close when it gets high. So we've not had, a big flood with a lot of damage since then. However, and we live south of those doors, and the river is north of the doors. However, all the people who live north of the river, because they're also north of the doors, are considered in that floodplain. He was telling us that getting flood insurance was almost impossible for the people who lived in those areas. And a lot of them are farms. So, they're pretty big pieces of property. Now, several of them have the homes they live in built up on hills for that very reason. Yeah, I can't imagine what that's cost. Because my husband and I laugh every time we get our insurance. You go through the policy and look at it, and then, we get a discount because we have all of our cars and our house with the same company, so we get all these discounts. And it's like, if you didn't get all these discounts, how would anyone afford it? I mean, ours would probably look more affordable if we did escrow it, and so it was just part of our house payment, so it wasn't something extra we had to think about. But I actually prefer doing it the way that we are. One, it makes our mortgage payment smaller, which just feels better, even if it really isn't, because we're paying the property insurance ourselves. The money's still all coming out. I didn't like it when we were doing that before on our previous homes. It always felt like the bank kept adjusting it for no reason, saying the premiums were going up, but it always felt like our escrow amount went up way more than the premium amount did. And so it's like, are you really adjusting this for the premiums, or are you adjusting this because you just want to have a whole bunch more money in this account? Because I felt like we were paying money that ended up just sitting there. Anyway, side tangent about escrow. We were talking about how this month is expensive because we have our house insurance is due. This happens to also be the month that our car insurance is due. We pay every 6 months. So house insurance, car insurance, and this month, because we took that trip to Canada in January, we have some credit card bills that we are paying off because we use those to pay for our plane tickets and that kind of thing. I try really hard not to transfer money out of savings once I put it in there, but I haven't been able to put any in there. I don't think my husband has worked a full week of work this year. They keep getting either it's too rainy or it's too cold or it's too windy, and so he's not had a full week's paycheck. Groceries are more expensive every time we buy them. Anyway, yeah, you all know. You have homes and lives. You know how it is. This month is just really expensive because on top of all of our regular stuff, we have the house insurance and the car insurance, and now we have credit card bills that we don't normally have. So we were, joking about that this is going to be a very expensive month, and I am going to have to transfer some money out of savings because his paychecks are not going to cover everything. That was before I completely forgot. We didn't even talk about the fact that our taxes will be due. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers and hoping that we are going to get enough of a federal refund that it will at least cover what we're going to owe in state. I know we're going to owe state. We always do. But you never know. And they, every time I turn around, they're changing the rules on what you can and can't deduct. This is why I pay someone else to do my taxes, because it's just a source of frustration for me. And I hate numbers anyway. I hate dealing with numbers, and I can do it. I just don't like it. I'd rather, if I have the money, I'd rather pay someone else to do it. So that's what I do. And that's what happened last year was we got enough of a federal refund that it covered what we owed the state. So hopefully that happens again this year, but we'll see. Not a lot of exciting happenings goings on in my life update other than I have a lot of money going out of my bank account this month, which I'm grateful. You know, we will have enough money to cover all of our bills. It's not like we won't be able to pay them, so I can't complain about that, but it does get frustrating sometimes. I wanted to work on her feather here. This is the feather coming off of her cap. I already did both of her wings. So I guess I'm just going to jump into my diamond painting update and tell you kind of how this one has gone. I did both of her wings and I finished the one on the right side first and I threw in some ABs. And then after I finished the one on the left side, I realized I hadn't put any ABs on the left side. So I had to go back in and kind of go, okay, what color was I using the ABs for? And, you know, of course it was a dark blue, so telling the difference between that and black was sometimes tricky. So it was a lot of kind of prying up some drills to see what symbol was underneath. And okay, I'm going to make this just to make it look even because once I was done, I hadn't realized that I had forgotten to put in the ABs, but it was very apparent once I finished and stepped back that it was very noticeable. So I had to fix that. And I've been having a lot of fun putting the ABs in this. There for a while, I was just, I think because a combination of things. I think because I was burnt out and because I was at the end of last year trying to get so many projects finished up that I just was maniacally place, and just going with what was on there and not thinking about how can I change this up? How can I make it different and more enjoyable? This one especially, I'm actually really kicking myself that I avoided this kit as long as I did because, again, I had avoided it thinking the black drills would be awful, but they have not been at all. I really like steampunk, and so it's been really fun to kind of look at the image and figure out what I wanted to do. That was something I also realized is that I tend to be, with most things, a very much jump in and ask questions later kind of person. In some things, not in everything, but in some things in my diamond painting, I am that way. And so I see an image and I'm like, I like that, I'll get that. And I don't always really necessarily stop and really look at the image, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, like with this one, when I sat down to start working on this and looking at it, going, okay, I bought all these different colors of ABs. Where do I want to start putting them? Because I approach everything differently. When I did my Diana, because Diana had 250 colors, what I did with her when I ordered ABs was sit down and go, okay, what ABs, what colors does this kit have the most of? And I will get ABs in those colors because then I will get the most bang for my buck, was my thinking. What I realized after doing it, and for the most part that worked out okay, but one of the ABs that I ended up buying was her face, the color that was used in her face. And while I could have put ABs in her face, I personally don't think that that looks very good, especially because she's meant to be realistic. You know, a few ABs sparkle here and there, maybe along her cheekbones or something would probably have been okay. But because I'm not an artist, I just elected to not use those ABs at all. And had I been thinking when I was ordering the ABs, I would have realized that, duh, of course, the color of her skin was going to be an AB that there was a lot of, and I shouldn't have ordered ABs for that color. This kit, because I was kind of behind when I got started on it, because I started it with February already started, which is typical for me, but anyway, I just kind of went through and went, okay, I'm just going to pick some colors, some AB colors. I already had two that were the diamond dots ones, my metallic ones, the diamond dots, and then I had another kind of blue color that I wanted to use. And then I just went out and looked at the DMC codes in the kit and went, okay, and I went to DP with sparklers and just bought a bunch of different colors. Some of it worked out okay, some of it I wish I had paid more attention. I bought 939 ABs, which had I realized I probably wouldn't have bought because it's a very dark color and I don't always think those look good. However, it worked out okay because that is the color that is in all of the wings, in her feathers and the feathers up here. And so sprinkling them in has actually looked okay. A few other ones, it was like, well, I got this one purple, but I didn't buy the other purple AB, and I really should have for where it got used. It all still looks really good. I'm still happy with how it's turning out. But yeah, just I don't pay enough attention to the images. And like on this one, Like she has earrings in one of her ears. I didn't realize until I started to diamond paint that section that that's what those were, because I just don't spend enough time looking at the image. Just another lesson for me that I need to pay more attention when I'm ordering things. It has, however, made me realize that I want to organize my ABs a bit more. I keep my ABs with my spares with the DMC colors that they are, and I don't want to change that. I considered pulling them out and kind of putting them in their own storage. And while that would free up some room in my boxes, which would be nice, that means then I have more boxes because I've got ABs that need to be stored as well. And I just wasn't up for that yet. Maybe someday I will be, but not yet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little spreadsheet for myself that tells me what ABs I have and which ones I don't. Well, I mean, the spreadsheet will just tell me which ones I have. That way, if it's not on the spreadsheet, I know I don't have it. Because what I find myself doing and what I did with this kit was, okay, what ABs do I have that I can use? And I have to pull out my boxes and just kind of go through the boxes and look at each DMC color and go, do I have this one? No. Okay, it just gets a bit tedious. So if I could just look at a spreadsheet and do it that way, that would be a lot faster and it would save me time. That would be nice. And maybe it would make me be a little more organized when it comes to ordering which ABs that I want. My haphazard way of doing it has worked so far, but yeah, I just want to be a little more methodical about it, I think. I am really happy with how this one is turning out. There's a few things that I wish I could change, but for the most part, I'm super happy with how it's turning out. This may be one that I actually frame and hang up somewhere because I think she's turning out so good. This was my second February project. My other one was the June Fee from Orloa. I did finish that one, so you'll be seeing that one pretty soon. I'll be showing you guys the D-kit and finish of that one. And then this one will get finished. And I did unbox my first kit for March, which was yesterday's video, which is my first mermaid kit for Mermaids in Magic this year. I put out a poll and you guys voted, and the overwhelming winner was the Phoebe and Beauregard, so that's the one I'm going to do first. My goal is to try and get both mermaid kits that I have finished. Phoebe and Beauregard is 50 by 70. The other one is, I think, only 40 by 50, something like that. So I'm hoping, since they're both smaller, that I will be able to finish both of them and get them done, because I would love to be able to do that. I think I'm going to stop there with the black, and I'm going to start filling in some of these colors. I am sprinkling in ABs in her hat here too, which is turning out really well. I didn't put any, well, you know what? I'm going to stop talking about this one. I love it, but when I'm finished, you guys will see it. Okay, so I unboxed my first mermaid kit. I'm going to do two. Oh, you guys, I need to spend some time working on my heaven and earth design. It has just gotten shoved to the back burner so many times, and I really need to do some work on it. I keep telling myself I'm going to do a square a week, and for the last couple of months, it has just been ignored because I've been so busy trying to get other kits finished up, and I really would like to get that one done, because I started that one last year and I still don't have it finished. I did get an email that my Craftably order is on the way, so I'm super excited about that. Those are the kits. Oh, I missed a black one there. Those are the kits that I ordered during Craftably's sale to try and help them stay in business. It sounds like things went really well for them. I had been waiting patiently. They ran out of boxes and then they ran out of toolkits. I just decided, rather than contacting them and making them run around and answer emails, I would just wait. Eventually they would get here. I'm not in any hurry to do any of the kits that I ordered. You know, whenever they get here is fine. So hopefully they'll be here in the next week or so. I will be able to add those into my stash and figure out when and if those are going to be on my to-do list this year. I need to go back and revise my to-do list. I had made up a list of what kits I wanted to work on each month, but that has changed and I bought some new things since then. So I think I need to go back and kind of revamp and look at what I want to do for those. I did pretty well in February with my goals. I did two kits. I did the June Fee, and I'm doing this one. This one didn't count towards my February hours, but I was working on it, and it's going to count towards my February series, so it's all good. I spent more in February than I anticipated because of the Craftably sale, and then I grabbed a couple of kits from Paint Gym, a couple of their mini sets that were new because I couldn't resist. I'm still under budget, and several of you pointed out that, oh, I should, Diamond Art Club is probably going to be having an anniversary sale here in a couple of months. That, of course, there will be Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales at the end of this year. And I thought, oh, they're so right, because I do want to have money left in the budget to spend. I have enough kits I don't need to buy anymore. I'm not going to say that I'm going to go on a no buy. That never works out well for me, because if I say I'm going to go on a no buy, I invariably I end up spending more than I would have if I'd have just said I'm going to try not to spend money. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to try not to spend money. And that way, when those sales roll around, if there's anything that I want to get, I don't have to feel guilty about it. I'm good. I mean, I'm the only one making me feel guilty. My husband never says anything about what I spend, but I have plenty of diamond paintings, so there's really no need for me to buy a whole bunch. It would be nice sometimes, I see other people on Cyber Monday. It's like, oh, look at my 50 kits that I bought. Not that I want to buy 50 kits at one time, but I dream about being able to buy 50 kits without feeling guilty about the amount of money that I'm spending. So, and again, nobody's making me feel guilty but me. I think that's how I think of this sometimes, is my guilty pleasure, that I'm not spending money that I should be using on anything else. Nobody's going hungry or going without something they need because I'm spending money on diamond paintings. But I do recognize that it is a hobby. It is something I do for enjoyment. And while that's cool, it isn't something that I need to go overboard on, which I could very easily do, as I did my first year of diamond painting. I am kind of itching to get back to doing some testing. I put out a video about testing the mica powder method that Jaded Gem Shop had shown, and testing it out, what I thought about it and what I thought the problems and issues were and all that kind of stuff. Lots of you had so many good suggestions and ideas for different things to try. Not only something besides mica powder, but different ways to apply it and things like that, that I would like to test out. I get so many questions about sealing things. Somebody asked about sealing after the mica powder. I didn't even think of that. I just don't normally seal my paintings, and so that just didn't occur to me. But going back and doing some testing, whenever I see people do testing, they've normally like cut up a canvas, and that always makes me cringe to think, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I've spent so much time diamond painting. But I have all those canvases laying downstairs that are just sitting around in my portfolio, doing nothing but collecting dust. Not really, they're in a portfolio. They're not collecting dust, but they're not like hanging on a wall or anything. So they're serving no purpose other than taking up space. And I thought, I should just get over myself and go grab a couple of those, section them off, and do some of the different kinds of testing that I want to do. Because I would like to see, I don't normally seal my paintings, but I have a couple down there that have been sealed, and it's been probably over a year. I'd like to see if the sealant has yellowed. I've used a couple of different kinds of sealant to see if that makes a difference. I want to test the mica powder and see how it works versus some of the other things that people mentioned. Someone said that they use talcum powder rather than the mica powder, which in my mind, one of the things I didn't like about the mica powder was how shiny it made everything. So I would like to try that. I would like to try sealing over it to see how it reacts, if it does. Not, with both of the different sealants that I have, and just see what happens. And so I might actually sacrifice a kit and do that. I say that, and then I'm trying to think of which one I would sacrifice, and it's like, because the ones I'm thinking of are all pretty big. Maybe I'll go grab a different one. Also, I would like to do some testing to see if things look differently versus squares versus rounds. Because like the whole thing with the mica powder is that it reduces the look of gapping. And like on this kit, for instance, I did, and you may have seen in the beginning, I did her face in a checkerboard pattern, and I single placed her entire face, or I will have when I finished it, because multi-placing just leads to unevenness, because no matter what you do, your multi-placing tip has edges. So when you go to put it down, that edge, which is the reason I like the really thin ones, has to fit in between the drills. And whether you're placing rounds or squares, it's going to move it just that little millimeter or fraction of a millimeter to make it just look not perfectly spaced. Like when I was working on her face, I was working with it facing the image facing me, so the bottom was in my lap, and I placed all the drills and they looked really good. But when I flipped it around to start working up here, now I can see where things are not quite perfectly placed. I considered using a ruler, but didn't anyway. So now I want to see if using the mica powder, because my testing was on round or square drills, what does it look like on round drills? And I don't think I'm going to sacrifice this particular kit because I may want to frame this one when I'm finished, but I may pick one that is something similar where there's a big chunks of white that I can do some testing on and see how it's going to turn out. And then knowing how it works and what I, kind of perfect the process a little bit maybe for what I want. I didn't like the way it made the penguins look super shiny like AB drills. Maybe, oh my gosh, you guys, I missed those whole sections right there of that. Ugh. Maybe if I had done all of the white, it wouldn't have bothered me as much. Maybe since I've already done some testing on the penguins, I'll get them out and I'll do some testing on them. We'll see. That would at least be a square kit that I could do some testing on, but I want to do some round as well, just to see what it looks like. Also, I want to do some testing on applicators. Like I think I mentioned in the video with the penguins that I don't think the toothbrush, maybe my toothbrush was too big, maybe it was too hard, maybe I need softer bristles. And, maybe I should have used a paintbrush instead or some kind of stippling brush or those like soft brushes that you use to apply the little round ones that come with like Mod Podge and stuff. Maybe one of those would have been better. Lots of things kind of floating around in my brain that I want to try. And you guys had some really good suggestions. So I want to do that. Also, you guys are so full of knowledge. On your way down to leave a comment, if you could hit the like button and the subscribe button, that would help me out a lot. And then leave me a comment and tell me what's the best tip that you've learned since you started diamond painting. Like what's the thing you can think of that you kind of went, huh, that makes things so much easier. Or whether it's actually, putting drills on the canvas and a tip that's helped you in that way, or if it's a tip that helped you be more organized or paint faster or whatever. Just what's a tip that sticks out to you that you're like, man, I'm really glad someone shared that with me. And now that I've asked you guys that, of course, I'm like, well, what would I say if I asked that question of myself? What's the tip that I think has helped me the most? I don't know how I would answer that. So I'll be interested to see what you guys' answers are. I mean, there's so many things that I've learned, using a light pad, using an easel, the drafting table. But when I think of all of those things, a lot of them I tried and then they just don't work for me personally. Oh, you know what? As I'm sitting here placing this, I think I know what it is. It's glue dots. Because I was getting so frustrated with how often I'm a very heavy placer. And so I would be placing heavily and pressing so heavily that I was constantly having to refill it. And with the plastic tips, the wax would start coming out the back end and start going up into the pin. And I just didn't like the way it looked, which seems like I mean, who cares about the wax in your pin, but it bothered me. Yeah, I know glue dots are not for everyone. If you are a very light placer and you can get away with doing something different, then more power to you. The wax is free. It comes with all the kits. I have wax coming out of my ears because I don't use it. But even if I did use it, I would have way more than I needed. But the glue dots just work better for me. Even though I've had people tell me that I spend more time fussing with glue dots than they do with wax. Again, I'm just a very heavy placer. So for me, having the glue dots, even though I do have to fuss with them a bit when I first load them, they last way longer than the wax ever did for me. And I can get through, a diamond painting this size with a new set of glue dots, and I don't ever have to change them. I do occasionally have to move it around or refresh it or whatever, just like you do with wax. But for the most part, it'll last me an entire painting before I have to mess with it again, which makes me happy. So I think that's what I would have to answer is that's the thing that's made the most difference. I mean, it's nice to have all the fancy tools and the steel tips and the trays and the fancy storage containers and cover minders and all that kind of stuff. But the thing I think that's made the most difference in my diamond painting is the glue dots. So yeah, let me know what yours is. I'd be really curious to know what yours is. I spent a couple of, that's not what I meant to say. I bought a couple of cross stitch patterns, you guys. I really want to try some cross stitch conversions. I've done the one project using my Diamond Dots books. This one I wanted to get a cross stitch kit and do the conversion. I went out and I bought a couple of cross stitch patterns. I loaded them up into that markup RX, what's it called? Markup RXP app that I could put on my iPad. I put my charts that I bought from Heaven and Earth in there with no issue, and I put I went to a place called Artisy, which I figured those would work. It's an Australian company, just FYI, because I didn't realize that until I got charged exchange fees from my bank. But you can buy cross stitch patterns from them, and they have little mini kits, so your project doesn't have to be huge. I wanted something small, and they had some small stuff. And I have a specific project in mind that I want to do because I'm going to be trying to use up my spare drills. You guys have seen me when I dekit before. You know, there are just certain colors that you tend to collect a lot of, like black, like 939, like 823, like some of those colors that, you know, are used in pretty much every kit. And so you have a ton of spares. I wanted a specific pattern and I had an idea for, ooh, this will be an easy way to let me kind of use up the spares that I have. So I bought a couple of cross stitch patterns, loaded them up into that. So I'm going to be working on those. It worked great adding them into the markup app. Yes, I'm going to be working on those. So be on the lookout for those. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get done, but I'm at least going to get started on them. You guys, I think that's everything I need to tell you. So I just dumped out this color, but I think I'm actually going to end it there. So let me zoom out so you guys can see what I did, which admittedly is not much, but let me zoom out here. So you guys can see I've just made a start here on the feathers, getting those done and getting those filled in. That will be good. I'll insert some ABs to add a little bit of shine. You can see over here where I've started adding in some ABs for her hat. So that's going really well. I can't wait to see how that turns out. I'm on the downhill slide with this one. I've got to finish up her face. Her eyes turned out amazing. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I posted some pictures of her eyes. I love how they turned out. So yeah, if you're not in the Facebook group, I have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. The links for those are down below. Go check those out. If you can follow me over on Instagram at diamondpaintinganonymous, I would love to have you over there. I try to anyway, post interim pics while I'm working on things. So if you only follow me on YouTube, you have to wait until I'm done with something before you see it. I do a lot more posting of in progress shots on my socials. So if you'd follow me over there, that'd be great. Yeah, I think that's it for me today, guys. I hope you made some progress on whatever you're working on. And thanks for joining me today. Before you leave, don't forget to do all the things. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification icon so that you can be informed of future uploads. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching.